we can see while seeing this front move through is pretty exciting. Like we just showed on radar, we are still dealing with some pockets of moisture this morning. However, we're going to track the rest of our Tuesday here. As it pushes farther to the east, it holds together long enough to impact areas like Wyoming as well as areas in northern Utah. And along this cold front, we really start to see some possible storm, maybe some thunder snow activity take shape towards Salt Lake City all the way down to Richfield as we head into the evening hours tonight. Now, a lot of this moisture going to continue into those Rockies, not only in Wyoming, but also in Colorado as we head into Wednesday morning. But the Pacific Northwest, finally, we'll see some more dry. In the northeastern U.S. are some of those snow and rain totals. Our next rain chance is on the horizon for us, and we are staying warm and well above average as we head into the rest of the week here. Those snow reports coming out of the northeast, those storm totals, and just snow reports in the last 48 hours show upwards of about 1.5 feet of snow in areas of the Vermont mountains, and even New Hampshire did see over 1 foot of snow. Portions of western New York and even in Maine along the Canadian border were able to see over 12 inches of snow in the past 2 days. Snowfall totals in the last 2 days shows us that very well, where you see that little stripe of pink in Vermont and even a little bit in New Hampshire. Those green and white mountains did see that highest snowfall total. Now, it was windy. That's one thing that video in New York City didn't show us too well, is that we had some pretty extreme gusts yesterday, enough to even delay flights in and out of places like Newark as well as New York City, so JFK and LaGuardia. We also saw Stony Brook, New York, 66-mile-per-hour gusts in New York City, Newark also with 59-mile-per-hour gusts yesterday. Now that breeze isn't expected to be as bad today, but plan ahead because you could also see a couple of delays trickle into some of those airports from yesterday, depending on how bad it was at your specific airport that you're trying to get to. Now we can see that forecast very much dry and calmer for our Tuesday. However, our next spotty rain chance comes late Wednesday along this cold front that moves through the area. It's going to be just that, pretty spotty, and we'll see mostly dry skies with a lot of sunshine, but then we start to see even more moisture reach in from the west by Thursday morning. And this next round holds together a little bit better for areas of the northeast, including the mid-Atlantic into portions of Pennsylvania. So forecast accumulation shows kind of trace amounts of rainfall. It's not going to be a washout for us by any means, but we could also see those temperatures holding pretty steady around those mid-60s in New York City, also 70s in Baltimore over the next 3 days. New York City, that 7-day forecast, we could see those rain chances Friday, same with Sunday. Also a bit of a cool down after that first rain chance on Friday. So try and get outside, go to Central Park today, enjoy the wonderful weather that we have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday before things change for us. Now taking over to the mid-Atlantic, some of those snow reports coming out of places towards Lake Erie, almost 10 inches of snow in some portions of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, the Appalachia also saw about 9 inches of snow too, and you can see that here, snowfall totals, where you see those pockets of purple towards Lake Erie and those higher elevations in West Virginia and southern Pennsylvania. Those were really the winners in the mid-Atlantic that saw some pretty good snowfall. As far as Tuesday goes, a whole lot of sunshine and dry time, but Wednesday morning we start to see a little bit of moisture skimming to areas of Indiana. This one doesn't hold together too well until about Wednesday night when we have a chance of seeing some spotty storms reach into southern Indiana and into Kentucky that could possibly linger into those overnight hours into Thursday morning, and some of those could produce quite a bit of lightning and quite a bit of thunder. Forecast accumulation shows just kind of maybe upwards of about 1 inch of rainfall. Flooding not a huge concern with these storms, and those temperatures staying in those 60s and to help us kind of wake up and get ready for our work day, right? Some of the things going on in the north central U.S., we sure do have a lot to talk about. Some storm chances from Tuesday into Thursday. All forms of severe weather are possible throughout the next few days, and fire danger is this time a little bit up north this time around. That severe outlook over the next 3 days. Tuesday from Kirksville, Missouri down to Nevada through Springfield, as well as skimming into and near Kansas City. Now, Tuesday's threat, primarily a wind and hail threat, but Wednesdays as well as Thursdays brings us the potential of seeing all forms of severe weather. Wednesday from Kearney through Lincoln into Omaha, as well as through Kirksville down to Nevada into Tulsa. And then we could also see Thursday even a bigger area reaching well above and north of I-80 in Iowa Iowa through Des Moines, Davenport, into Chicago, as well as portions of Indiana, so encompassing all of Illinois and Apopka, as well as Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Now, taking a look at Wednesday's significant hail potential as of now, like I mentioned, Wednesday and Thursday bring that chance of all forms of severe weather. Now, Wednesday, we also have the chance of seeing hail over 2 inches in diameter. That's bigger than a hen's egg, or about the size of a lime, from St. Joe down to Kansas City, reaching towards Nevada, but not through it, to Topeka, and just south of Beatrice in Nebraska as well. Looking at the forecast, though, we could start to see some isolated cells fire off late tonight, and that's primarily that wind and hail threat that I was talking about. We see some dry time for the start of Wednesday morning, but you know what happens in the afternoon and evening? We have that chance of seeing some more isolated cells pop off as early as lunchtime, then they linger into the evening hours and into those overnight hours. The system kind of mushes together as it heads farther to the north, and like we mentioned, Thursday even has that chance of seeing some stronger storms too. Forecast accumulation, we could see upwards of about 2 to 4 inches of rain in some spots. However, it's not going to be widespread. Kansas City, Missouri, you see that storm chance Wednesday and Thursday. You cool down on Friday and warm back up for Saturday. Some of the record highs coming out of the Midwest came out of Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota yesterday. 80 degrees in Sioux City yesterday. As this warmth is nice to enjoy, it leads to some issues that are beyond this. Not only the severe weather aspect, here are some of our potential record highs today out of Iowa and Wisconsin, but also some fire concerns in areas of Kansas, as well as up into portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin. You guys have special weather statements. They're not necessarily that fire weather outlook, but still they have talked about that dry condition. Those high temperatures over the next few days, pretty warm but cooling back down. We can see the northern plains seeing quite a bit of rainfall start by Wednesday afternoon across the Dakotas into Nebraska. And then even portions of the panhandle of Nebraska, you have a chance of seeing some snow by Thursday morning, and it lingers into Thursday afternoon. Doesn't look to be a huge snowmaker, as most of it is rain. And we see a lot of warm temperatures, but still Minneapolis, a rain chance on Thursday, and you start to cool things back down gradually. Our last stop into the Great Lakes, we could see some spotty rainfall as early as Wednesday morning, but then Wednesday afternoon, we could see it reach into areas of the mitten of Michigan, especially southern Michigan, and this next honker of a system moving into areas of Wisconsin, Iowa, as well as Illinois and into Michigan by Thursday at night. Some embedded storms are possible, but it doesn't look to be too bad right now. Leads to waves like that and sites like that. Heavy snowfall in the mountains, flood concerns for some spots, and winter alerts that we still have to talk about that move over into the northern Rockies. Those winter alerts are lasting until late tonight. We have some winter storm warnings where we expect to see those highest impacts in those counties highlighted in pink in northern and southern Oregon, but also winter weather advisories where there still will be enough of an impact to warrant an alert, but not a high impact like those warned counties. But that forecast shows a lot of that moisture becomes pretty scattered throughout the rest of our Tuesday until we start to see a little pocket of snow kind of band together by Tuesday night into portions of central Idaho, reaching into eastern Montana. But then we could start to see a little bit of dry time for Washington and Oregon by Wednesday morning. Thankfully, it doesn't last very long, but then we start to turn our focus to areas of Idaho and Montana after that. Thanks to a high pressure system, we clear out by Thursday, but it takes its sweet time getting there, folks. Forecast snowfall in addition to what we've already seen. We've already seen a couple of inches at least, but 12 inches in addition to what's already on the ground is very likely wherever you see those hot pink coloring. So from the northern Rockies into portions of Idaho and along the spine of the Cascades. Now, we do have flood alerts to talk about, flood concerns specifically towards Olympic National Park, not too far from Forks. Also some coastal flood concerns along Forks and towards Seattle, Tacoma. So all the things that we have to pay attention to within our day-to-day, but that forecast rainfall shows us highest amounts of rainfall, kind of trace amounts at this point, thankfully, along the foothills of the Cascades and along the coastlines there. Those temperatures over the next few days in the 40s and 50s holding pretty steady as well. winter weather alerts in the northern Rockies. We do have some newer alerts with winter storm watches in southern Wyoming and reaching outside of areas of the Rockies, but it is still a little uncertain with how much of an impact this is going to bring. So let's time out that forecast for you. We can see a lot of that snowfall in the Rockies of Wyoming throughout the rest of the day today. Now, these bands of snowfall that are really going to combine together like this one by Wednesday morning, reaching through central Wyoming into Casper, Cheyenne, as well as places like the little interstate in between those two cities. We could see a lot of that moisture turns over into rainfall, reaching towards the Black Hills by Wednesday afternoon. But you guessed it, with those colder temperatures overnight, it's still going to continue to dump snow in places like Rock Springs, Casper, and Cheyenne, Wyoming. And that's why we have those winter storm watches out there. Forecast precip, we could see upwards of a foot of snow is pretty likely at this point from Casper down to Cheyenne and over towards Rock Springs. Even the Black Hills of South Dakota, Deadwood, Sturgis could see over a foot of snow as well. But some places could also see over 2 feet of snow, which is why we have those winter storm watches issued. Those temperatures over the next few days, they are starting to cool down and get a little bit closer to average. So try and enjoy the warmer weather and dry weather that you might see today while it lasts. Now we're taking it down. That's going to change for us over the next few days. We're actually tapping into quite a bit of energy that we need to see for some of those storms to form throughout the day today and even into our Wednesday as a different system comes through. And as you can see, we actually even have more energy across the plains at that point in time. That severe outlook today reaching from Kirksville, Missouri, down through areas of Kansas City Metro into Columbia, through Springfield, as well as Joplin, Missouri. It's a wind and hail threat primarily this afternoon, and some of that conditional storm risk chance we have is due to that temperature inversion where we have warm air aloft but cool air also above that and at the surface, and that adds to that chance of seeing some fuel for some of those storms there. The severe outlook for Wednesday, we have that slight risk, which is a 2 out of 5 on the threat scale from Beatrice, Nebraska, down through Kansas City. All forms of severe weather are possible, and a 1 out of 5 on the threat scale from Omaha, including Douglas as well as Pot County, reaching down to Centerville, Springfield, Tulsa, and down into Durant and outside of Dallas, Texas on Wednesday. Like I mentioned, all forms of severe weather possible on Wednesday, but we have a chance of seeing some pretty significant hail. We're talking about over 2 inches in diameter, and that's about the size of a lime from St. Joe down to Kansas City, reaching down towards Nevada and into Topeka, just south of Beatrice, Nebraska. That forecast, we can see some of those isolated storms tonight. Again, that primary threat, wind and hail, and then we start to see it kind of dissipate as far as that storm aspect goes until Wednesday morning. But we know what happens in the afternoon. We start to see some more storms fire off Wednesday afternoon and into those evening hours. Those have that chance of producing all forms of severe weather, and this one is quite a doozy. It brings us a lot of rainfall, so some localized flooding is possible, however, not highly likely at this point in time. Now we're taking our time. Denver, get ready. There's a chance of seeing quite a bit of snowfall in your area here very soon. There are a couple of things that we don't know about this forecast as of now, but we are expecting some pretty heavy mountain impacts. Also, that timing is Wednesday night into Friday morning as far as that snow goes. What we don't know is the exact track of the low, the amount of cold air with this system, and that all leads to and plays into how much snowfall that we're actually going to see out of this system. Now we're taking a look at that forecast jet stream. We have 2 different low pressure systems coming down from the Pacific Northwest, and this drops into the Rockies and into those mountains of Utah, bringing us that chance of snowfall. So we do have some winter weather alerts until Friday morning from areas of Cheyenne, Wyoming, all the way into Trinidad, Colorado. That's where we have some winter storm watches. A step above where we expect to see some pretty high impacts, or where we have that little itty-bitty sliver of a winter storm warning just in the mountains to the west of Colorado Springs, and many counties highlighted in purple, which are winter weather advisories. Forecast snowfall, keep in mind, please, there are are still many things that are uncertain about this forecast. Not only the things that I mentioned, but also the upslope flow potential. If we have a low pressure system that kind of sits off the Rockies and those winds are perpendicular to those mountains, we could see even higher numbers in this. But if this low moves out of here pretty quickly, we could see some lower numbers. But right now, our in-house bear model outputting at least a foot of snow for the Denver metro, reaching up to about areas of Thornton all the way down to Colorado Springs. Don't be too surprised if some areas towards Castle Rock, those higher elevations, could see a little bit more than a foot. At least that's how things are trending right now. And up towards Cheyenne, maybe a foot, possibly even 10 inches or so too. Timing out the forecast for you tonight. There's a chance of seeing a little bit of thunder snow activity reaching into areas of Salt Lake City down through Ogden, as well as Richfield and Cedar City. And then we are going to see a lot of this moisture just kind of sit over the mountains to start off our Wednesday morning. So some places on the west side of the Rockies that will wake up with some snowfall. However, it's not until about Wednesday afternoon when we start to see some rainfall, mainly on the lee side of the Rockies. So on the Front Range, Colorado, that's when we start to see it in the form of rain. And that's why the cold air makes such a big difference in this forecast, because as we head into those evening hours, you start to see some more blue mixing in with this bunch here. Some pretty heavy snow at this point, reaching from Denver through Colorado Springs into Pueblo, and that is also into Thursday morning. So that drive into work is going to be pretty rough, especially towards the middle of the work week for us here in the Denver metro. Snowfall rangers for Denver on the low end of this forecast, about 3 inches. And that's for folks that are going to be a little bit warmer than the rest of people, especially closer towards those mountains. But what's most likely is 8 to 12 inches, and on the high end of that, 14 inches. And our last big snow event where we received 10 inches of snow or more, this is what really blows my mind. The last time we saw over a foot of snow at DIA was March 14th, 2021. So almost this exact day, 3 years ago, was our last big snowstorm. So it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. But we're going to follow mainly in that central U.S. We could see Sioux City, Iowa hit 80 degrees yesterday, beating out the old record at 76 degrees, set back in 2016. Norfolk, Nebraska, also 79 degrees, and the old record dated back to 1900 at 74 degrees. So this was some pretty intense heat for some spots out there. Potential record highs today coming out of areas like Wausau, La Crosse, and reaching up towards Duluth, Minnesota, and we could see that here on this graphic here. Spencer, Iowa, Green Bay, as well as Wausau all have that chance of breaking or at least tying a record high today. Taking a look at those high temps surrounding the Great Lakes, we could see 72 degrees in Davenport, almost 70 degrees in the Twin Cities as well. But as you can see, those temperatures start to dwindle down. They start to get a little bit cooler over the next 3 days, but still by Friday, we're not even close to average, still above average in many spots. Across the nation, today's high temperatures, 77 degrees in Houston, also 75 up in Wichita. And you could see these darker oranges reaching farther and farther to the north, even impacting areas of North Dakota. But 57 degrees in Bismarck, that's still well above average for this time of year. A 20-degree increase in temps on where we should be in Bismarck this time of year, but also 30 degrees just about in Minneapolis. We're only seeing some cooler temperatures, mainly in the Pacific Northwest, skimming down into the Four Corners and into the New England states. We have seen our warmest winter on records in all these pretty major cities like Chicago, Milwaukee, even into Des Moines and Sioux Falls. And that warmth really goes to show you where we're supposed to be. This thin yellow line is where our low temperatures are when we're supposed to be there. But you could see those high temperatures start to drop over the next few days in Des Moines, getting us close to average and a little bit below average by the end of the week. In the Northwest is that we are still tracking some heavy snow across those mountains, flood concerns, and we have to talk about those winter alerts that have expanded farther to the east. Now, those winter weather alerts until tonight, where you see those counties highlighted in pink in northern Washington and southern Oregon, those are winter storm warnings. That's where we expect to see some of the highest impacts. A step down from that is a winter weather advisory, and that's showing up in the purple there. Now, panning ahead to that forecast, a lot of the moisture that we see today is going to be pretty hit and miss. So a lot of us will be able to squeeze out at least some dry time throughout our Tuesday. And good news is areas. We see even more headed into Wednesday, and thanks to a high pressure system that starts to reach into frame by Thursday morning, we'll actually see some much needed dry time towards the middle and end of the work week. That forecast snowfall throughout the day today, we could see an additional 6 to 12 inches of snow, especially along the spine of the Cascades, areas of those higher elevations in Idaho and up into the Rockies of Montana. That's also a chance of seeing upwards of another 6 to 12 inches of snow. However, it doesn't look to be too common there. Some of the rain reports coming out of the northwest, we've seen over 1 to 2 inches of rain here, and that did lead to a little bit of flood concerns, especially towards Olympic National Park, where we have not only some flood warnings, but also coastal flooding in that area, especially towards Fork, and on the other side towards Seattle, Tacoma as well. So all things to pay attention to, but the forecast rainfall doesn't look to be a whole lot in addition to what's already fallen. Mainly along the foothills and along the coastal areas, we could see another trace, maybe half an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch of rainfall, but it's not as widespread as it was a few days ago. And that's fantastic. We're making progress finally. Those high temperatures staying pretty steady in the 50s and 40s over the next few days as well. In our last stop into the northern Rockies here, we can see a winter storm watch is in effect along Rockies of Wyoming and into Cheyenne, Wyoming as well, where we also do have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings across Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana. That forecast, we can see those Rockies in Wyoming have that chance of seeing some beneficial snowfall throughout the day today, but it's really not until Wednesday that we start to see kind of a clump of moisture form by Wednesday morning from Miles City down to Casper and to Rapid City. It's falling in the form of rainfall now, but then as those temperatures start to cool down, we start to see a lot more snowfall with this system by Wednesday night and even into Thursday. That eventually pushes down farther into Colorado as well. Looking at that forecast precip, we could see upwards of about a foot of snow possible towards Casper, Cheyenne, and even the Black Hills of South Dakota towards those higher elevations. Deadwood, Sturgis, Spearfish. You could see some of those beneficial snowfall totals too, and those temperatures also cooling down over the next few days. So if you have that warmth and dry time today, get outside and please enjoy it. Now we're taking it down.